Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the TraderMerlin Show. It is your Monday edition, and what an exciting Monday we have. Some great market moves out there. I missed my small little window of opportunity on gold today, which, of course, will be one of the major topics du jour. Again, we'll start things off with a nice shout-out to everybody. Good, Kevin Martinez, good to have you with us. We got Simon, Lori, Jerry, Dana, Ketut, and Lufthansa, my favorite airline. Happy flying, my friend. Ketut, Siraj, Big Eb, Thomasina, thank you actually for the email you sent in over the weekend regarding my Ramsey comments. Yes, I didn't know it was as religious as you pointed out, but certainly I think one day I might actually do a show focusing specifically on debt because, yes, you brought up some very good points, and I didn't want to throw shade to anybody who is, struggling with debt. Debt is obviously an issue, but to me there's good debt and there's bad debt. And to say unequivocally that debt is bad, to me, that just shows unprofessionalism. There's good debt and bad debt, and honestly, I'm using debt in a manner to hopefully increase my net worth, which is what we should all be doing, right? If I can get money at 2% and make 8% on it, that's going to win over time as long as I don't overextend myself and take too many risks. So we'll talk about credit cards another day. Jerry, yeah, you're going full mandatory vaccination on September 13th? Really? I don't think, can they force, I don't know, I have to get some lawyers in the program. I'm with Simon as well. If they're going to force me mandatory that I have to get the vaccine, we might have an issue. I will get it eventually when I'm comfortable, but you can't force me to do it. And hello, Les, our first place finisher, and Ivzy as well. All right, today's show is going to focus, as I mentioned, specifically around the metals market. Oh, yes, we saw, actually, we've been drawing some really nice zones on those metals charts, so let's check that one out. Why does it say metals crash? Did I put a month ago? Did I put the wrong date? Oh, Lori, I could very well have, because I'm stupid and I'm rushing to do things. I may have put the wrong date on there, but hopefully I didn't. But if I did, well, sorry about that. It's today we're talking about. So let me start off with a quick rundown of what happened in that metal space. I told you on, I think Thursday or Friday, I got stopped out of my gold trade because it just didn't do what I thought it was going to do. Then days like today happen and you're going, man, I'm so glad I got stopped out and got taken out of that position. Awesome. So let's run through I'm going to start with the overall markets, and then I'll work our way up to the metals overall. So we'll do the top 7 like we normally do, and then work our way backwards. And if you guys are trading out there, pretty amazing with regards to supply and demand zones on the metals and commodities. Look at crude oil. I was talking about that 66.80 mark as being a nice point, right? And really that's the top of a demand zone. And if you go all the way down to the lower end of that demand zone, you're looking at a low price of right around 65. So, a $1.80 range there. Well, notice today it came ripping right down to 65, bounced back up here at 66.85 right now on crude oil. So I'm going to move this line down to the lows that we saw on the, give me that exact date, Merlin, on the 20th of July. That's $65. Right, that's the low end of that range, and right now it looks like we're bouncing right off it. So still looking okay, but it's inherently getting weaker because, as you guys can see, for the past few months, we're making lower highs and the same lows. This could be building a descending triangle, which is not very positive. That said, I still am of the opinion that crude oil is going to drop further because of the supply increases from OPEC and just demand starting to drop because of COVID. And I'll look at some COVID charts here in just a second. All right, so let's move on up here. Gold, continuing today, a nice slide. And you notice the move. I'll map this out here just so you guys can see the exact numbers. If we go from yesterday's close to where we closed today, you're looking at 1.79% down. However, if we look at what it bottomed out at, you're down almost 5% today on gold. And where did it turn? Exactly at the low we identified as like the big possible turning point or stopping point for gold. And I'll look at that when I do some more analysis specifically on metals. So interesting day for gold. I think it created a great buying opportunity. Unfortunately, I didn't get there. I think I told you guys, we get sub 1700. I'm looking to buy at those demand zones from March and April. And I just wasn't sitting in front of my computer when that happened. And quite often, I like to use set and forget orders so I don't have to sit in front of the computer. I just didn't put it in on my gold, and I'm really bummed because that would have been a very high probability trade, in my opinion, just the way that it was headed, the way that it bounced. It's looking good. Yeah, Jerry, it's interesting. You brought that word flash crash, and I put that in the description today because a lot of people are calling this a flash crash. To me, it didn't move enough to call it a flash crash. And I don't know if there is an industry standard metric where you say it has to move this much, like a bear market. That's 20% off the all-time high. For me, a flash crash has got to be something like 10%, right? It's to me, it's got to be a very sharp amount. Now, moving the range it had today, 4.7%. Yeah, it was an aggressive down day, but I see that happen in stocks all the time. I see that happen in cryptos all the time, and especially commodities. 5% move. I mean, how many flash crashes in a row did we see in the lumber price chart, right? We look at that thing when it was moving up to the stratosphere. Ever since then, it's just been lock limit down almost every day. I mean, you've seen some huge swings down. So I don't know personally if I would call it a flash crash, but it's a very easy term to throw on it. Basically, when you have a thinly traded day, if you look at Big Eb says gold looked like it was thinly traded, causing a technical crash. Yes, there was. You had a couple big countries on holidays today, so they're not in front of their computers. Like, you shouldn't be on a holiday. Therefore, when you have thinly traded markets and something starts to roll either up or down, then yeah, it's a ripe market for massive swings. Now, that says, once, I think it was Japan and who else was on vacation? Somebody else had the market closed. I can't remember. But normally you'll get those big, sharp, aggressive declines, and then once they come back online, it bounces back. So to me, it would have been a great purchase point and a price to buy gold. We'll look at that deeper as we go. But technically, for me, I can't call it a flash crash. I don't know. Maybe I need to come up with a number for myself, like 10%. 10%, I'll call that a flash crash. In one day, that's a flash crash. But 5%, amateur leagues. You guys haven't even tried trading crypto for a couple of months. 5% is like a normal day. All right, let's see. Let's go to our charts again. I'm going to keep going up the list, men. We're going to do indexes, overall top 7, and then I'll go into specifically the metals. Brendan, you're great. Normal society is lame anyways. Love it. Let's go to the Russell 2000. Again, nothing noteworthy. That yellow box just keeps on stretching out to the right. I mean, now of course I put it on snap mode. But that box, basically our range. Our range has been defined since the beginning of the year. It's not doing anything. It was down 0.46% today. Really dead center of that range. I don't see anything noteworthy about the Russell 2000. S&P, very different picture, making higher highs, higher lows, and you can see just about to rip through all-time highs today. You had a little bit of a down move, but it came right back and closed at 44.27. It was actually slightly down, but for me, this still looks bullish. The only concern I see here is you guys notice that volume is significantly lower than its average. Not the end of the world, but we'll keep an eye on that. If it continues to drop, that'll make me more pessimistic about the current trend. All right, let's go to some positive stuff. Can't all be negative out there. Boom, there you go. You have the NASDAQ 100, which was green today. That's coming on the heels of that slight little sell-off of the previous trading session. 0.21% gain, bringing us to 15,126 for the NQ. And again, looking great, still very strong. And then finally, the wild card. We talked about this on Friday's show where I said, it's this anticipation of the vote, which is supposed to happen on Sunday. And because our politicians and governors are inept, it was supposed to happen on Sunday. It was supposed to happen Saturday, then Sunday. And because these guys are all complete donkeys, self-interested people, in my opinion, we got that vote pushed till tomorrow, apparently. So now they're talking about taking it down to the floor tonight. But I got to do a real quick one here. And this is part of the reason that I hate politics. And I guess it happens in our businesses and jobs as well, where you'll do business with a specific client because maybe you know them, or you scratch my back, I'll scratch your type of thing. I got to call out a senator here, Senator Shelby from Alabama. You're getting the donkey of the day because you're a jackass. I mean, there really is no other way to put it. Because you're not getting what you wanted in the bill for infrastructure, you're just going, no, I'm not going to accept anything else until I get what I want. It's like you spoiled little brat child. Now, thank goodness Senator Shelby is stepping down at the end of his term because, again, it goes back to my rant about how I just hate the fact that these politicians are doing things self-interested and not what's for the good of society. We elect them to do what's good for America, and they don't do that. Senator Shelby wants a defense measure put into the Infrastructure Act. It's not going in, so now he's just stonewalling anything that comes his way. So congratulations, Mr. Shelby. You are officially my donkey of the day. And of course, if anybody would like to call Mr. Shelby and say something to him, and call him a jackass in person, or tell him to vote on this initiative, it's 202 225-5744. Call and just say, hey, Shelby, you have to vote on this initiative for cryptocurrencies. Why? It's digital assets. And if we don't, as a country, pursue digital assets and cryptocurrencies, we'll fall behind to the rest of the world. It's an innovation in the financial markets, and other countries are doing it. And if we put a limit on it, then all of a sudden we'll be playing catch up for the next decade. So right now, I think we have the lead on it. So anyway, had to throw out a donkey of the day there. It just doesn't happen too often to throw a politician on there, but God, it just pisses me off. You know, it's like I want things to work. I want our country to function better, and your job is to make that happen. Quit trying to push your own agenda in there. It drives me absolutely crazy. All right. Right, it does, Lori. It's like you sound like a 2-year-old, right? No, I'm not going to do it until I get what I want. I mean, come on, man. Jeez Louise. All right. Jerry, if you know anybody who has the lawyer side of things, I'd love to know, is it legally right for them? I don't think that they can legally force you to get a COVID vaccine. I get like measles and polio and things like that, but the COVID virus, when we look at the statistics, boy, we could go on and on and on. All right, let's go to we've rest with Bitcoin. So of course the Bitcoin's chart looks amazing over the past week or so. Pretty nice move today. You're at 54,000 on the futures. There still is a lot up in the air until this vote goes through. I'm not exactly sure how this is all going to pan out, and I'll look at that after we talk about metals. So let's go to metals. Lee sent in this question. So what the hell is going on with gold? Well, I think you have a couple factors, and we've looked at those on this show, and the factors were, I think you broke below a technical level at 1,800, right? And that was where my stop loss was. So you have a trigger below a level. It sets off a bunch of people's stop orders. So what does that do? The trigger's selling. And then we just recently broke below this other one here, which is 1756. You also have one whole number psychology at 1750. So I think what happened is it's a combination of things. I don't believe that what you're seeing here is a rollover and people going, oh, gold sucks, let's get rid of gold. It no longer has any store of value. I think that that's wrong. I think what you're having is kind of a perfect storm where on the most recent rally, which happened in mid-July, it just didn't quite make higher highs. So people may be getting a little bit, I guess, less optimistic and wanting to move capital into another asset class. That's fine. But then you have a thinly traded market like we had this Monday. You have Sunday and Monday, really. Then you have stops being triggered. Then very quickly you can start to see that momentum pick up. Now, we talked about this on the show, like where would be the best buying point? Or I think we can go back last week and say, where would I be interested? I said, there's certainly some levels down below. 1750 was one of them, but it was really these lows down in here that go back into March and April, right? Your 1680 mark. That looked great. And if we go back to a weekly here, you can see that really is a pretty, I guess, I'm not going to say strong area because it's been hit a few times, but really got to be careful what I say out there. Yeah. You can censor me all you want. I just moved to something else. But bottom line is I'm going to move these lines, and you look at this chart here. You guys remember what's one of my favorite patterns? If you look at this gold, I hate to say it, it's just starting to look weaker and weaker and weaker. It looks like a descending triangle starting to form right now. We'll wait and see what the next bounce up, right? It's a beautiful buy point for me. It personally, it's 1680. I did not purchase it. I wanted to, but I didn't have my order in place. But if you look at that price chart, if we get back up to 1800 and not 1900, meaning we get this next bounce up and it doesn't break 1900, then all of a sudden I'm starting to feel a little bit bearish on gold. Even though I love gold, I think it's a great long-term hold. I certainly believe in gold as a store of value, but that's not to say that there's going to be a falling out of favor temporarily or moving into something else. Line in the sand, you ask Lisa, for me, it's that 1681. You get below 1680, then I think you're going to see a pretty quick fall down to, your 1550 mark. Unfortunately, I still hold gold coins, but I'm out of my gold futures and call options. So fine, we'll lick our wounds. I really wanted to buy today, but look at that picture. Let's see if I can draw this out for you, or at least I'll draw across the tops. You guys can see the kind of downward pressure that's pushing this one down. For whatever reason that may be, it's showing weakness. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the falling out of favor, the trend, and also thinly traded markets create these big volatile swings. And here's the issue with it. When you have a day like today, which is almost a perfect storm for precious metals, specifically gold, again, the thinly traded aspect, that's why I always tell people half days, take off. Don't ever trade a half day because normally they're very thinly traded. holidays, especially around the world, as Americans, we were open today. So the assumption is everything's fine. But there's a lot of countries around the world. Some are very active in the gold markets or in the equity markets or different markets. And if you lose that liquidity, all of a sudden a slight change can create a much more amplified move up or down. So today we get that big move. And of course, what are all the headlines? All the headlines are gold crash, gold crash, gold crash, gold's over, flash crash on gold. That brings in more people. And of course, when they hear that, a lot of the retail investors do what? Oh man, gold's crashing, I got to get out. Of course, the smart money is probably buying these dips and probably buying at 1680 as we mapped out here on the price chart. So really interesting for me to see what happens over the next week or two. Again, I think that line in the sand personally is below 1680. Is gold a descending triangle in my book? I would say yes. I would say yes, this is a descending triangle. And the reason is, let me make this line thicker just so you guys can see it matching up with the top line. We'll make this one a little heavier so you guys can see those two thick black lines there. You can see them coming to a head. And I don't know when that's ultimately going to hit. Let me do a drag here. I could take this line, and TradeStation doesn't let me draw it out very far, but let's just imagine that line continues on. It could keep going. The point we need to see to make this a confirmation of a descending triangle is that it's making lower highs and the lows are staying the same. So it's this battle where the ceiling is getting lower and lower and lower. The floor is staying the same. At some point, if it keeps hitting that floor, it will probably break down below it. Okay? So yes, I do think that it's a descending triangle building. Again, only time will tell, and most of the time people look at these things and say after the fact, oh yeah, it was a descending triangle, but yes, I think you see it forming, and it's simply because those highs are getting lower and lower. Now let me look at a couple other metals here, and I got to go to a different platform simply because I don't have all the futures feeds. Where's that chart? 1 second. Oh, great. I guess I deleted that chart. One quick second. Let me bring up that other platform. Okay, there we go. So I just did a whole bunch of reorganizing of my TradingView account. So let's go to the metals I have down here at the bottom. So we start off with gold, silver as well. You guys might remember I'm still long silver. Well, I guess not long. I sold puts on SLV at 22. We actually got below that today, but I'm totally fine. I think long term I'll be okay. Now, if you go to the longer term picture from silver, to me it looks better than gold. Why? Well, if you look at this longer term picture, and I have to draw some more lines for you, you guys can see that right around, it's not perfectly, right around 22 bucks, which is where I sold my puts at, I'd be happy owning it because it seems like for the better part of almost 8 months, it stayed within that range. I mean, it's actually been a year, not 8 months, it's been a year where it's been staying within this range. Now, certainly it's approaching it very aggressively and fast right now, but I'd still long-term be happy owning silver at 22. Now, we look at something like platinum. All right, platinum is in a much worse situation, in my opinion, than gold. You can see that not only has it broken those lows that would have been a trigger for me at 1100, but it also has broken new lows at, let's call it 1,035. And now we're ripping down below. And the question is, where's your next stopping point? It's probably going to be somewhere right around 930 in my opinion. So platinum looking really ugly. It's definitely lower highs, lower lows. That's a pretty strong trend. And remember, so many people are trend followers in this space. So they'll jump on something and continue to ride it just because that trend is pushing one direction or the other. Platinum, to me, is a very easy case for people piling on the shorts here because the trend is pretty strong. Now, that was platinum. Palladium, a little better. This is actually forming a pennant formation because you can see the last month or so, it's almost the same lows, but they're just slightly higher, and the highs are slightly lower. So basically, you have compression like that spring pushing prices, and ultimately this thing will pop one direction or the other. But for right now, if I had to buy one, I personally would be buying silver simply because I like where it's at. And again, that's why I told you I'm happy buying at 22, which is why I sold puts at $22 and collect a premium. And by the 20th of August, I may be executed, right? I may be long silver. Great. I'm fine with SLV. Gold would be my number 2 right now as a purchase. Palladium would be number 3. And then platinum, I would just stay away from it just because that trend is so strong to the south side. This is a falling knife with a lot of momentum equals platinum. Yes, I agree, Jerry. And again, I think a lot of people look at this and say that catching a falling knife is a bad thing. You should never try to catch a falling knife. I completely disagree with the catching a falling knife theory. Catching a falling knife just because something is falling, yeah, that's a fool's errand. Shame on you for trying to catch some. Oh, it's cheap, it can't go any lower. Yeah, it could keep on going. If you're catching a falling knife as it's falling into a very strong demand zone, like gold is a great example for today. It's not the strongest demand zone on the planet, but you'll notice that the lines that formed here, let me bring this line down. The lines that formed on gold, gold has not been below this level since April of 2020. Now, granted, it was all the way up to 2080, right? But it hasn't been below 1670 since then, since April of 2020. So it's a pretty positive sign that it hasn't been able to break those lows. However, it is getting weaker. So to me, catching the falling knife on gold today would have been a no-brainer. It's just the timing of this didn't happen when I was awake and in front of a computer. So unfortunately, I'm more bullish on Bitcoin than any commodity. I'm very, as you guys know, I'm very bullish on the crypto space. I'm a little nervous about this referendum or amendment. This amendment going on. If they don't vote this through, it could really be first off, it's a black eye for America personally, because what you're saying is, hey, we have a new innovative technology which could revolutionize our financial markets. If you don't pass that, you're basically saying we don't want innovation. Well, tell that to the auto industry, right? Innovation and automation has helped the auto industry stay alive. And if we don't do it, somebody else will take the lead. I mean, look, China even has their own cryptocurrency, or Federal Reserve coins, right? They've got a central bank backed currency. They're already ahead of us. Yet we're saying, no, we don't want that. We want to make sure we choke out the competition and kill it here. I just think we're being very, very foolish. So until we get that referendum or amendment passed, I don't know. I'm still a little skittish on it. I was debating selling a large portion of my portfolio just because we've had such great gains over the past few months. But I'll stick it out, and I think we'll be okay and pass on. Uranium is something I don't look at, Daniel. Not my thing. I know that Brendan is a big fan of uranium. He loves it. It was interesting because I brought a couple commodities traders on this show. I think we had John Rowland and I think there was one other. Maybe it was Don Dawson years ago when we talked about uranium. Don Dawson was like, I don't touch it, never trade it. It's too thinly traded. And I think John Rowland said the same thing. That's not to say that there's not opportunity in there, but normally for the futures guys that I trade with and interview on the shows, these guys need liquidity. They want to make sure there's plenty of people trading it, because when you have more people, you get a better sense as to supply and demand zones. When something doesn't have a lot of people, it can just blow right through any level for any reason because somebody has a bigger position. So liquidity is a big one. Copper. Look at some copper. Let's check out copper. Out of all of them, copper looking pretty darn good. Now here's the same chart that we've been looking at, same basic time frame going back into 2020. The trend is still up. Now, granted, it's a little weaker, right? And I'm going to do a little bit of artwork here for you guys. You could go back to these lows we saw in March of 2020 on copper, and roughly you could say, hey, we're still trending up on copper, right? That said, if I look at the most recent trend, which is really from here to here, it looks like there's been a slight deceleration in the magnitude of that trend or the strength of that trend, if you guys understand what I'm saying there. And I like to do this because to me it tells me what the emotion is the fuel in the tank. So I've got two trend lines drawn here, and the first one's real loose. I'm not a big fan of where this line is, but let me go and I'll paint it a different color for you. I've got a red one. You guys can see the red uptrend line on copper, and then I'm going to draw, you got the blue line there. So recently, over the past 6 months, the angle has started to change. It's slowing down just a little bit. Not that it's done. It actually looks like a head and shoulders pattern if you look at that blue line. But all in all, I'm still okay with copper because it's still trending up, right? Now, granted, this most recent high here, this one that we saw established on the 23rd of July, it didn't make it to a previous high. That's noteworthy for me. We hadn't really had that since March. It's just been higher highs, higher lows, high, just constant, nonstop. But we ended up continuing to make new highs. So I still like copper. I'm a little, if I have to put a scorecard on it, 1 to 10, it would have been a 10, but now all of a sudden this lower high is putting it about a 6 or a 7 for me. It just makes me debate the overall strength because I feel like it's slowing down. Yes, crypto. They said they're taking it down one more time. So what does it mean? So the crypto provision was blocked. It basically means that there's going to be a ton of taxing on companies and put a lot of companies out of business. There's going to be a lot of entities in the crypto space that will just disappear because they're unable to meet some of the reporting requirements that would now be in this bill. Now, granted, the bill hasn't even gone through yet, but this one little portion. Now, I don't think that that's a done deal personally. I think you'll get some fighting. I think the main problem here is most of our senators just don't understand the scope of the bill that was being proposed for the cryptocurrency portion. With a little bit of education and understanding, they would all step back, oh yeah, that actually makes sense, right? And yes, let's put these revisions in there. Let's amend that bill to incorporate these things. I'm still hoping it goes through. Right now, at this point now, it's not. It's a done deal. Right. What's the definition of a broker? I mean, are you kidding me? These guys are making 6-figure salaries to sit in a room and bicker all day and complain about everything on the planet, and all of a sudden they go, well, what's the definition of a broker? I got 2 words for you, senators. Merriam-Webster. Google it and type in the word broker. I mean, come on, how difficult is it? A miner is not doing transactions. Someone who's creating programs is not making transactions. They're creating software. A broker is the one who's doing transactions for you. That's pretty clear cut. I wish I could do a sample right here, but YouTube will probably cut me off. But Ron White, one of my favorite comedians, he's like, there's a great stand-up routine he does where he's like, you can fix bad hair. You can fix boobies, but you can't fix stupid. And I love it. To me, that's the ultimate when I think about politicians out there. So, Rick, yeah, I'm still not super optimistic, but I mean, you look at the price charts, it's telling you that things are still pretty good. Plus, I think the adoption rate is really what I'm most concerned or most interested in with regards to crypto. Yes, the taxing of it would be difficult and create challenges, and I think prevent some new technologies from coming to market. But as long as the big firms, JP Morgan, these guys start to adopt it, it won't go away because now they have tens of billions of dollars in that space. They can't let it die, right? So then they're going to be out lobbying for crypto bills, etc. So it's terrible. Yes, there are a lot of old and demented. It's unfortunate that it's that way. And, I never was one of these big, we need term limits. I really think we do. I think that what we should have, personally, is some sort of grading system and see how these politicians have done. I'm obviously, I'm in California here, and everybody always makes fun of Pelosi. It's like, well, I look at what she's done, and I'm sure there's good stuff, there's bad stuff, but the way she profited from the Visa deal, the credit card reform bill, right? It was her vote that decided that thing. She was the one who basically shot it down, and for me, credit cards need to be reformed. And oh, by the way, Visa was courting her husband, who made, I think, $5 million off of Visa. It's like, yeah, that's just wrong. That your report card should go down. And if you don't maintain a special grade, you get kicked out. Like if you go to college and you get a 1.0 GPA, you're out. You're done. You're booted, right? There's a certain threshold you must achieve, unless you're an NFL football prospect, and then they'll keep you there for whatever. But bottom line is, these politicians should have a report card, and if they get below a certain one, boom, get out. Well, Lisa, it's not just Pelosi. It's not just Pelosi. So I always hate doing that because I pointed at Pelosi, but this is everyone on both sides of the aisle are profiting from their decisions. So if I'm on the House Defense Committee, I'm going to be voting on measures that are going to benefit Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, and I'll know whether to go long or short those guys long before I put my stamp of approval because I have all the information I need. And it's not Democrats, it's not Republicans, it's not Independent, it's not Libertarian, it's not Greenpeace Party or whatever it is. It's every party out there. I don't think there's a true politician who's overly altruistic that says, hey, you know what? I'm putting everything I have on the line for my country. It's like, I'm putting a lot on the line for my country, but I'm going to make as much money off this position as I possibly can, regardless of whether it might hurt or hinder. So, yes, grade them. Laws are like sausage. You sleep far better unless you know about, a good one, Rob. I like that one. Yeah, and normally, what are what are the laws made of? All the bad pieces and parts that nobody wants to think about. You're right. All right, let's see. So that was, yeah. You guys, some of this chat here is just hilarious. You guys are killing me today. All right, so that's my thoughts on metals. You know, the clickbait is metals crash, but I don't know if I would call it necessarily a crash. I think it's a retracement into an attractive level for a lot of these markets. The only question is, at what point do we do an about face and say, you know what, I'm no longer bullish on metals, right? I think for me, certainly, we mentioned platinum. I'm bearish as hell on platinum. I'm short any rallies. This thing comes up to 1050, short it again. I mean, gets maybe even 1,000. Just looking weak and weak and weak. You look at Palladium. Well, Palladium would be the one I probably don't do anything with because it's just compressing in a tight range. No big deal. You look at gold. I like gold as a long right now. I love gold as a long right now, just as long as it stays above 1670. If it gets below 1670, dump it. Dump it like that crazy girl from high school. Silver. I like silver as well. Almost the same reason as gold, but I like silver better long term. I think it's got more use cases. I think it's a cheaper entry point, so all your Robinhood traders can grab some of that stuff and feel happy owning precious metals. So, yes. There were some precious metals questions, but I can't seem to find those. If you guys have question marks in front, I will be happy to try to answer those. Yep. You know, and this is something that bothered me years ago, and I know the laws have changed to some extent, but if you think about, you could focus on Mr. Pelosi, but again, I don't want to make it about one couple because it's all of them. I mean, how you could point your finger at Trump as well. I'm pretty sure his family's profiting from decisions made. I'm sure you could point at Obama and all the administrations, not just from presidents, but every senator on down. They have access to some seriously crazy information. For example, this infrastructure bill. As this infrastructure bill is being built out, they know where the money is going. They know who's going to receive that money. So if I'm on the infrastructure bill and I know that Caterpillar is going to get, $100 billion of this, don't you think I might want to go out there and sneak myself some call options or some leaps on Caterpillar or just buy it outright? Or go to a family function and just start telling all my friends, you might want to buy some Caterpillar because it's going to do good over the next 6 months. That stuff's, it's going to happen. And it used to be that if you or I had that information as normal Americans and we acted on that, that's insider trading, that's illegal, you and I go to jail. It recently has changed. I got to look this up to make sure I got all my facts right, but it used to be 100% legal for our politicians to do insider trading, which was crazy. Anyway, that's supposedly has changed, but I don't buy it. I think it's easy to trade off insider information without letting anybody know. I think I told you the example, and let's say I'm the president of the United States, and we've all gone to school. I go to my reunion, I hang out with all you guys, and everything is great. And I say, look, when I say the word China, now I use that word too often. When I say the word great, that means that you should go out and just buy the S&P 500 long. Just whatever is, buy all the call options, buy all the futures, buy all the SPY, DIA, all of that. Buy it long. If I say the word great in a tweet, and I'm going to do it within 24 hours, so keep an eye on my tweets. And if I put the tweet out there and it says padlock, then that means sell everything. And what I'll do is I'll wait 24 hours, then I'll issue an announcement. We're going to put a padlock on trade restrictions with China. We're going to stick it to them. Boom, markets tank. Next day, hey, relationships are going great with China. We think we're going to reach some agreements. And then you get these huge swings. Easy money for everybody involved if you know the code. And they say that the SEC can watch all of it. There's no way in hell they can. All right, is gold weakness correlated to the recent rise in Bitcoin? We looked at that one. I don't personally see a tight correlation right now. I think at some point it might start to gel and solidify. I'm going to see if I can bring up that comparative analysis right now. So bear with me as I try to do all this stuff at once. I got to copy this chart and paste it. I don't see a direct correlation right now, but part of me thinks that there will be that relationship. I just don't see it firsthand. And to me, that's the easiest way is to look for the firsthand. Okay, so here we got Bitcoin on the bottom, and on the top, I've got gold. And this is representing the exact same amount of time. I don't see any real direct correlation here. Unfortunately, I mean, not unfortunately, Seems weird to me, but Mario, I don't see the gold weakness correlating. I mean, I think why you're seeing gold spike is specifically the reason why you're seeing Bitcoin spike at the bottom was it's down over 50%. People seeing there's a bunch of value there, and the political talks about putting some regulation in the crypto space, I think is long-term good for crypto. But I don't think it necessarily has a direct correlation to the sell-off we've seen over the past couple weeks in gold. That's just me personally. Let's see. What else? I'm looking for question marks. Question marks? I don't see no question marks. All right. Let's see. Christy, what did Christy say? No, metal weakness is correlated with yield, 10-year spread. Yeah, we could go look. Well, I think that you're looking at a lot of it is fearfulness about interest rates. So if we go look at some of the yields right now. So here's your TY. Let me get rid of this one here so we can get rid of that comparative analysis. And I don't have the tools to do the spreads calculation right now. But this is our weekly. And we've had that nice run up in the value of it, which means that's a drop in the yields. Yields started to come up a little bit over the past couple of weeks, right? You've seen that move back up here. So let me go out there and bring up some charts where I can show you the yields because I like this one much better. And there is our 10-year yield. So this is the 10-year. You can see we have a small little spike up the past few days on the 10-year interest rates. We're still at 1.35 or 1.32, which is still historically incredibly low. But there is still fear about this. And Brendan says, Fed's not raising rates before 2023. I agree. I don't think they're going to do it this year. I think they'll do it next year for sure. I'll take that wager. I'll bet you. I'll bet you it happens in 2022. Let me see if I can pull that debt clock for you. I wanted to show you this one here real quick. This is also something that I think is a major factor to it. Now, we all have difference of opinions and thoughts on COVID and how lethal it is, and don't want to, I'm not going to go down that route, but this is from the CDC and looking at the number of deaths. This is new admissions. I thought I had it on deaths. Let's go. But we can clearly see a huge surge up in the past few months. And I think that this is the other piece that's spooking the market right now, is this nice curve up. That's got a lot of people on jitters that if we do go back into that lockdown, a lot of the gains we've seen might disappear. And that's also raising hope that the Fed may keep the pedal on the gas even longer. All right, let me look up debt clock. Debt clock. I had it up here. So Brennan, what did you want me to look at? There's the debt clock. And what did you want? Silver to gold ratio? What did you ask for me in there? Can you look at the U.S. debt clock and look at the real gold and silver prices? Oh, hell, I don't even know where all that stuff is. Dollar to gold. I don't know where that would be, buddy. This thing's got such... there's so much stuff on here. I think you're just looking at this. No, this is just comparison. I don't know. I'd have to look at that one separately, Brendan. I'm not too familiar with the debt clock page. I noticed as the dollar goes up, cryptos go up. Any truth to this? Well, again, we could do the same thing we were looking at now with where I was looking at Bitcoin with gold. Now, I'll put the dollar at the bottom here, so $DXY. And obviously, over the past couple of weeks, we've seen a pretty nice move in it. And I'm actually feeling more optimistic. It's just kind of been bouncing back and forth. I'll keep it full screen for a second so I can draw my yellow box on here. Because if you look here, really going back into October of last year on a weekly, we're pretty much stuck in this range here. Now, it's a big range. This is the dollar index, but it looks to me we're right near the top of it. If we can get out of that and specifically get above 95, there's a lot of upside potential here that is almost unobstructed. So that said, how does this match up with something like the weekly of Bitcoin? So let's go and copy the chart again. I shouldn't have closed it. And I'll paste it up here. And I will do dollar at BTC. So here's your Bitcoin price chart with it. And you have them right now both moving up. Now, otherwise, do you see any real strong correlations here? I don't. Actually, they almost look inverse for a portion of it. There is a site that you can use, MR, more research. It's MRCI, I believe. And if you click on their commodity future relationships, you can actually, I don't know if Bitcoin's on there yet, but you would be able to see these relationships and percentages over periods of time, which I think is a very valuable tool for others, for people who want to look at those relationships. All right, I gotta wrap this up here. I got a doctor's appointment I gotta get to. There's the dog. Cool. All right, let me just throw this out here. Today's the 9th. If you guys obviously have comments, feedback, questions, suggestions, things you want to know about, email me. It's TraderMerlin@gmail.com. And then what else did I want to show you? I had some other stuff. And sorry, I didn't get to everyone's questions. I have a question from Rachel, which was what happened with the Senate vote in crypto. That got shot down. And I'll leave it at that. So here is the only announcement I have for tomorrow, which is your economic calendar. Earnings-wise, there are earnings tomorrow, but it's really just a couple of not that major names reporting tomorrow. I believe, if not mistaken, you've got Chesapeake Energy and SoftBank are the two major ones for tomorrow earnings-wise. Here's what you've got cooking for the economic calendar. If you notice the U.S. here, it's really not a lot of major stuff. Mortgage delinquencies, I'm interested in that just because I'd like to see this. I'd actually like to see this number spike. It just feels to me like we're getting overstretched on the housing market. Seeing 16% year-over-year gains in Case-Shiller Composite 20 is just crazy to me. But notice there's not a lot of groundbreaking stuff here. Early in the morning, if you're trading the euro, you do have some economic sentiment pieces. That may be of interest to you. If you've been watching that euro, it's at a pretty precarious point right now where it's just about to break below that 117 mark, which could lead it much lower. So that might be of interest to anybody trading futures or Forex tonight for the euro. That said, that's pretty much it for your announcements for tomorrow. This week, I'm going to have Sam Evans on the show on Thursday. That should be a fun one. Sam always loves to just draw charts and talk about markets, and he and I get along great like that. So Sam will be on Thursday. Tomorrow I'm going to go do some more listener questions and probably build some questions around listener questions. So if you guys have something you want me to address, let me know what it is. Send it on in at TraderMerlin@gmail.com. That's the easiest way. Of course, for some of you guys who have been sending them in or putting comments and questions below the YouTube videos, that's great as well. I do check those rather frequently to hopefully get them all prepped for the show. So that said, hope you guys have a fantastic evening out there. Be safe. It's going to be some fun trading tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be up in time to capitalize on the big moves. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.